Hello. Happy 28th of the Christmas Craft Off 23 collaboration that has been put on by the amazing Rach and Bella Crafts. Now, the kits are amazing, and I have only used a small portion of the kits because they are huge. I'm going to put a link to the Etsy shop down below. I'm also going to put a link in the description box to Rachel's original video, which gives you all of the information for the collaboration and also information and instructions on how to enter the giveaway. Now, I know the month is nearly over, and that's one of the sad things about being right at the very end. The second thing that's quite difficult about being right at the very end is you have a really hard act to follow, because the videos so far in this collaboration have been amazing. There are so many inspirational projects for you to follow along with. If you have missed out, do go and check out the list. It's amazing. I have got a playlist on my channel, and I'm pretty sure most of the other channels have also. So the 28th, I am obviously Tracie Fox Creative, and alongside me is Sunflower and Doors. So there will be a second video up today, and our prompt was Christmas junk mail repurposed. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to say today, although this took 2 days of filming, I'm doing the intro at the end because I just wasn't sure whether my idea would actually pan out, and it hasn't quite gone exactly how I wanted, but it's okay. I'm quite pleased with it. I hope you're going to enjoy it. But the junk mail repurposed, I didn't want to use an envelope because envelopes I have had coming through my door. What I was on the lookout for is some of those kind of supplement magazines, or, you know, the food magazines or the shop magazines that come through the post for like some of the food shops, or if you're in the UK, you know, your M&S and that kind of place where you get your sparkly magazine. I just didn't get any. I didn't get any, and I knew I was running out of time. So I had to improvise, and I have used junk. But I had to actually go ahead and purchase a newspaper with a supplement. It was on Saturday. It was a newspaper and a supplement. So I've used a magazine. Well, it's made of newsprint, really. So that's what I'm using. And I also do use some other junk. One of it is a piece of mail, but it's not necessarily junk mail. But I had to I had to use my discretion for the junk mail repurposed, but they are repurposed items and they are junk. So hopefully you'll be able to kind of use your discretion if you want to follow along with this project. And I'm going to give you a very, very sneak peek at what I made. I just want to give you a tiny little taste of it. There you go, just at the top of the screen. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've got my magazine, or my supplement, from a Saturday newspaper. You could easily use the junk magazines that come through your post, which is what I intended to do. So I needed my pieces to be 16 centimetres wide, or 6¼ inches, and 22 centimetres long, or 8.6 inches. And I did a score at approximately 3 centimetres, and you'll see me do that later. So the long length is 22 centimetres and the short length is 16 centimetres. So I grabbed my trimmer and I started with the 16 because I could get 2 pieces out of each page. I just cut both of those down, and this is a folded page, so I get 4 pages from this one piece, and then put the spine through. So I cut at 22 centimetres, and then I have my 4 pieces. Once you've cut 24 pieces, that's how many you need to fold them lengthways. And if you've got anything with a block of colour, you need to have that folded onto the outside. So I'm just folding these 4 pieces up. Once you've cut and folded your 24 pieces, you need to put them inside each other as though you're making a journal. So you need all 24 pieces. I cut mine beforehand to make sure it worked. So this is just an additional bit to show you. We need to trim off that the bit that hangs out from the inside. So line your ruler up with the shortest outside page and use your craft knife to just trim off that excess. So my 24 sheets or 24 sheets are now 48 page booklet, and they're all nice and flush at the edge. So what I need to do is I now need to start my folding. So they need to stay in the same order. So I'm opening it up and starting from my inside page. So what you need to do is, I use a ruler because I just find it helped me be more accurate. The first ones weren't quite so accurate. So you need to use that along the centre fold. Fold it as if you're making a paper aeroplane. So you fold down that top right hand corner. To make it easier and a bit neater, I've used a little bit of glue just to hold that in place. And then I do a second fold, folding that again into the middle like a paper aeroplane. Make that crease. You can use a bone folder if you want to. Put a little bit of glue again along that edge. Once you've done one side, you need to do the second side. So again, I put my ruler along that crease to make sure I'm folding into the centre. Fold it down. Put a little bit of glue just to secure it. Doesn't need a lot. Make sure the crease is nice and straight, and then fold it in again. Once more, I'll use a little bit of glue just to secure that into place. You should end up with something that looks a little bit like this. Now, what I did notice was my initial measuring was not quite accurate, and the inch that I anticipated that would need folding was a little bit out. So I actually lined it up on my scoreboard, and it was actually 1.5 inches. So what I did do was added a little piece of tape, because this was quite a repetitive job. So I could just quickly put it against my flat edge on the left hand side and just score at 1.5 inches each time. You then fold that flap up and just put those creases in place, and you'll end up with a little triangle like that. Open it up, put it face down because that's your inside page, and then start working through the pile on the left hand side. So again, take the sheet, use the ruler and do all of the folds, and this is a very repetitive job, but it's quite relaxing until you have done all 24 pieces. So the next thing we have to do is just trim off those little pieces that overhang, and there's a reason why I'm cutting these off. So I just take my scissors, be really careful not to cut the actual triangle of the edge, the fold that you've made, but just trim off those little pieces. And again, I work from the inside and just go through all of my 24 sheets, trimming those edges. Once they're all done, I just quickly go through them, make sure there aren't any pieces that are folded over the top of another piece, because you do need to make sure they're all separate. Just give them a really good kind of squeeze together, make sure that they are as tight and as nicely folded as possible. I've got a nice big book opened up. I'm going to take the inside half of the pages, lay them down, and I'm going to poke 3 holes all of the way through. And if you use a book like this, you will go right through that spine, nice and easy, fairly close to the top, fairly close to the bottom, and 1 in the middle. And I'm just checking to make sure those holes go all of the way through. Now I'm going to take the bottom one and put it on the top of the second pile, just to make sure I can use that as a template to make the holes through the second batch. You can see I took the next sheet down because it wasn't very easy to see the holes in that previous sheet, but they are still in order, don't worry. Now we need to bind these together in the same way you would a journal. I'm using a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I had intended on using a staple because that is what a pamphlet or a leaflet would have been bound with. However, my staple gun had no staples in and I couldn't find any, so I thought this is going to work just as well. It's really easy to just poke your needle through the middle of all of those triangles. I use a bulldog clip just so I don't lose the end of my thread, although I did have quite a lot of thread, so there wasn't really much fear of that happening. And then I'm going up to the top and I'm going to poke my needle through the top. You can see you do have to be a bit careful with your thread, but it is very easy again to go through all of those holes. Once you've come through, just pull your thread, make sure it's nice and tight, and go down to the bottom and come through as you would with a pamphlet stitch. It went straight through, very easy. Pull the needle through. You can see that's on that crease. It's a nicely punched hole. I just tighten those a little bit just to make sure they're nice and secure. And then go back through that middle hole and making sure you come up the other side of the thread. Once that's done, just give it a good tighten. Not too tight that you rip your paper, and tie it. I used a triple knot to just tie that off. And now we have the start of our half a Christmas tree. So far so good. I'm just going to take that middle page and trim that little fold because we want to glue that middle page closed. We want to make sure we're kind of sealing in that stitching. So I'm just going to run a bleed of glue all the way around the edge of that page, that centre spread, and just glue those little kind of pocket bits down really as well. And then run a bead of glue along the bottom I could have actually cut that thread now, but I don't. I actually cut it a bit later. Doesn't really matter. Fold that over and give that a good push down. Now we need to start gluing all of our pages down. So I start with the right hand side and just glue the edge of that little pocket flap, and just push each page down. And you need to do this for the whole half. Go all the way through. Once you've done that half, you need to turn it over and do exactly the same on the other half. I found this easier to do it upside down, but just go through and push it all down. Make sure each one is glued into place. So I just kind of manipulate the tree a little bit, if you like, just kind of opening up some of those pages, trying to push things into the right place. But what you might need to do is here and there put a couple of little dollops of glue, just to make sure there's not too much of a wide gap in those front pages, because your book is automatically, your tree is automatically going to want to open in the middle. It is quite bulky at the top. Once it's finished, you'll see it doesn't really notice very much. So once I've done that, I'm just going to make sure it's completely dry with the glue, and I'm just going to put a book on it to weigh that down. Okay, so now that part is out of the way, I still have absolutely no idea if my plans are going to work. Now, initially, using 24 pages had a purpose. I was going to use this as a kind of advent calendar. However, I discovered very quickly in the first few attempts that wasn't quite going to work. Now, I've got a couple of fairly big gaps here that I want to fill. So I'm going to put a little bit more glue here and here and just push that down. And like I said, this is very hit and miss, because this is not, haven't got this far in my previous attempts. It's just been the Christmas trees that I've been making. So back to the theme of junk mail. Now, this did come in the mail. It was a box that a Christmas gift came in. So I'm calling this junk mail. This is the packaging. Now I'm going to use this side, because I'd like a nice white clear side here. And what I'm going to do is use one of these. This is the background, shabby background. And I have printed out the little mice from the Fussy Cuts. And what I've done is I've printed one straight forward, and then I flipped the other one. So we're going to see if this works. I hope it does. But the first thing I'm going to do is cover my card. But I want to just check how big I actually want it, because I don't want it full size. So let's just kind of decide. I'm going to grab my pencil, and I think I want it. I need to do something maybe along the back here. How big is my tree? I think it's probably the right width, but a little bit too tall. So I'm gonna cut to maybe here. You know, it's just trial and error, and I've had my errors, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do this okay. Right, the first thing I'm gonna do is just cut off the flaps from my packaging. It's a pretty good fit, actually. Pretty perfect. So I'm going to glue the back of this. Let's get some Pritt stick on there, because this is a large area. Okay, and then I'll run my art glitter glue around the edge. I printed borderless, so if you can't print borderless, you might need to make your card or make your panel a little bit smaller. So I'm going to line up with the bottom and one of the edges. Take my bone folder, push that down. We're going to actually stick to the tree to this, so we do need to make sure that it is pretty firmly stuck, and then we can just trim off that excess. Okay, so that is our baseboard. Now I do want to add some of the little presents along here, so I'm going to actually find a few more of the fussy cuts, but I think that tree actually looks pretty good, and I also need to find something as the base. So I'm just going to go and print a few more things and I'll be back. Right, I am now set. So I have printed this particular page of fussy cuts because I want the gifts, and I've cut this because I think I'm going to use one of these two, probably this one, as the base for my Christmas tree. Okay, so my two little piles of packages are cut. I'm just going to have a little look at where this might go again, because obviously I want it to look like the gifts are under the tree. So might have to do these the other way around. I'm going to glue this down as yet. I'm still going to make sure I'm considering this properly before I glue it down. Okay, so I've got this one. I think this is the one that I want to use for the base of my tree. Is to kind of make this round. I'm just going to grab something to start to round that off with. Right, so I actually want this a lot shorter. So I'm just going to trim again, and a little bit shorter still. So I think that's probably as long as I want it. So here we have our little piece of cardstock, our little patterned paper. So this is 9.5 centimetres, which is about 3 3/4 inches, and it's about 1 inch or 2.5 centimetres high. No, that's actually not going to work. So what I actually right, take two, here we go. So what I actually need to do is do a straight score line down here. So let's put that score line in place. That will all be glued, so don't worry about that. Hopefully this will work a little bit better. Just going to use my brush to kind of make that round. That will form my tree base, and that's going to work much better. Much better. Okay, so I know I want to have it resting at the bottom, so I'm just going to have to kind of go for it really. Right, so I just put my ruler down, and I've gone in roughly 8.5 centimetres and roughly kind of 12.5. Just going to hold that into place to make sure that glues. So when we get, I think what I might do is just cover that little section. So I'm going to cut could have done is actually made a back for this and folded it round. That would have been obviously the more logical way to make a base. My tree is going to sit on there like so. Oh, it's nerve-wracking. So I'm just going to give my little gift fussy cuts an ink. Right, so I'm just going to put these down, and I know I'm going to have these kind of hanging off and then to cut the edges. Let's pop that down, And that will kind of look like we have gifts under the tree. Maybe we should move them a little bit closer to the tree. Right, so I'm going to glue these in place. Right, I'm just going to give the bottom of that an ink. In actual fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my ground espresso oxide, and I'm going to ink the whole side of my cardboard. Right, so my Christmas tree, my junk Christmas tree, is going to look something like that. Yes. There is still a few things that I need to get done. So it's day 2 of filming. Wow. I hope you're following along okay so far. So that's what we had yesterday. So I'm going to put that aside and talk a little bit about the printing of the fussy cuts that I've done. So what I've done is I printed, flipped, printed again. They've been cut out, and I'm not going to lie, I did use my Cricut, but obviously you can do it by hand. And what I'm doing is just gluing these back to back. So I'm just going to show you one because I've done all the others in preparation. It got too dark to film yesterday to finish off, which was a bit of a shame because I was on a roll, and I just kind of really wanted to carry on. So I did do quite a lot off camera. But this is basically what I've done with all of these little mice that are so cute. So cute. So we just put that together. And then what I did was grab my brush and my distress oxide, and I just kind of roughly went round them. I didn't go too mad with the ink because I've done some heat embossing, which I will show you shortly, and it's probably a good job I did do that off camera because I used glue rather than embossing powder, embossing ink, and I did that so I could be quite accurate where I put the powders. So that's now our little double-sided mouse, and you're probably wondering why I'm doing them double-sided. So I'm just going to show you what I've done. I've done some clear, I don't know if you can see, so I've got some clear embossing done on these little bits here, and I've only done one side of those. That little mouse didn't really have anywhere for me to do the powder, so this is another one that's clear, and that one's also clear. They're not great, unfortunately. I didn't do a very good job of these. These ones, I don't know if you can see, I've just put a little bit of this, which is Heat It Up snowflake tinsel, and it's kind of a mix of white and silver, and I've done them double-sided. I'm just hoping this is in focus because I actually can't, nothing looks in focus over on my Mac to me. So I've done both sides of those. So I had to do one side, let the glue dry before I heated it, and then I had to turn it over and do the same again. So these did take a little while to do. If you're using a pen, an embossing pen, it's probably going to be a lot quicker because you'll be able to heat them straight off. But if you heat too quickly when you've used glue, it will bubble. So those are my little micey people. So we've got him as well now. And the reason I picked that one to do on camera is because he probably hasn't got anywhere that I want to add the glittery heat embossing powder. The next thing I did was made some strings of bells. So I'm going to show you what I've done. I've used a linen thread here. I'm just going to bring the camera down a little bit. So I've used a linen thread, pulled a piece off because it's actually easier to work with. Just chop that. And I finally found my jingle bells. So I'm going to take, let's go one of each colour. And I'm just going to grab a bell, thread it on. And I want to leave a good amount of thread at this side. And I'm just going to tie that on. Okay, so now I'm just going to do the second one. So I'm just basically showing you some of the bits I've already prepped, ready to put this together. And I want these ones fairly close together. So let's have a little look. Yeah, they're about 1 inch apart, that's fine. And then just put the last one on. And this is going to serve as kind of tinsel Christmas tree decoration for my junk tree. So I can't wait to see what Sunflowers and Doors has done, because obviously I'm sure we've interpreted this quite differently. So there's my little row of beads, and I've got, or bells even, you could use beads. So I've got my little rows of bells. I got this fabulous snowflake. It's kind of one of these 3D ones, so it actually embosses and cuts at the same time. I got this from my good friend Emily, and I'm telling you, I am over the moon with it. And again, using junk. I'm a very well known pudding dessert that you might have at Christmas, so we could call this Christmas junk. Not mail, junk, it's not junk mail, but it is junk. So I'm going to use this. I'm just going to grab my little, now I know, having done one already, I just need plate B for this. So I'm going to put, now what I want is I want one large and one small. So I'm going to do the large one. Oh, so I'm going to put that down, close that up, and I'm going to put it with the bend into the machine. So I'm just going to put this in, go through and come back. And then what we can do is just pull this out. So I'm trying to keep to the theme of junk as much as I can, other than using the beautiful kit, obviously. So there's one. I just love this, absolutely love it. And I'm going to do a small one this time. So I'm going to put that in. Make sure that's completely covered. Use what you have. Let's get that out there. I mean, if you've got a silver cardstock, it would probably work very well. This is very thin, which is fine by me. Right, so I'm just going to grab a little piece of scrap card, pop these down. Chance to play with something that I haven't really had a chance to play with, and I've done this very simply. All I've done is gone over the middle of the snowflakes with a little bit of the gold crayon, and then I'm just going to use my finger to kind of rub that in and blend it around a little bit. I've already done. So they're very, very simple. I mean, again, you could, if it was a bright cardstock, maybe in gold or whatever, you wouldn't have to do anything else to it. I've rubbed most of that off. Okay, so again, for a moment, I'm just going to put those aside. Bring my tree back in, and I just want the tree for now. Now, I have made a template that is approximately the same size as the back of my tree. It's pretty spot on, but I want this template a little bit simpler. And again, junk mail, that's what this is. It's a junk mail piece. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off this to make it a little bit smaller than the back of my tree. So I started off with it exactly the same size, but now I want it a little bit smaller. And I love using junk mail as templates. It's perfect, really. And let's see. That's pretty good. So I'm going back in with some of my scrap cardboard. Again, this actually is junk mail as such. It was a Christmas gift inside it. I'm just going to cut this, and I'm going to use my craft knife for this. But with something like this, it's worth making a template first rather than just going straight in. Now I'm just going to check that fits on the back of my tree, which it does. And the reason I'm doing this is it will just raise the tree slightly from my my board, and it will also allow me to kind of decorate a little bit without having too much of a problem. I'm going to glue this onto my backing, so I'm just going to glue this. I don't want to turn it over because of the branding. Like I said, it is junk though, so I'm just going to glue this. Okay, now I've made sure I've got plenty of glue on here, and it's going to be a little bit fiddly, not going to lie. I'm going to line it up, push my tree down. I'm going to grab some clips actually to hold this in place. I'm just going to kind of continue to kind of push down on the inside, because obviously you've got your little pockets all the way around this tree, just to make sure that is nice and glued. Right, now that's going to help keep the tree open so I can actually work on it. It's probably dry enough for us to kind of work on now. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my row of 4 bells, and I want this to go something like that. And obviously it's very difficult for you to see from the angle, but what I'm going to do, I want the bells to start fairly high, so I'm just going to make sure that wraps around the tree, so that's in sight. I'm going to put a little piece of tape there, come round my tree, and then tape another little piece of tape, I think it is, and I'm just going to tape that down there. So let's take the rest of my clips off now. Obviously I'll show pictures of this face on once we've finished. Now I'm just going to trim off this cotton because I don't want that to kind of hang about. There we go, that's not too bad. Hopefully you can see there. So that's all right. Got another, this is a 3, doesn't have to go quite as far. So I'm going to get another piece of tape. Okay, there we go. That's our tree. Now, like I said, might get a bit tricky with what I want to do with the whole thing, but that's what we have. So, right, I kind of think that's almost where I want things. So let's have a little look at my stars, my snowflakes. I think I'd kind of like those a little bit behind the trees. Actually, I think I'm going to glue the tree down. Let's just go for it. Let's just go for it. I'm going to lift that up so my bells don't. Right. So, got my glue, making sure that tape stuck down. I'm only gluing on the cardboard. I'm not gluing the paper at the edge because that will deform the tree slightly. Okay, here goes. Had to tilt this slightly to make sure I get my tree straight, and then I'm going to go in, push that down. The other side. I mean, both pieces are flat, so it should all work out fine. Make sure we sticky down everywhere. Okay, right, now I'm going to prop my tree up again. Just make sure my bells are all loose and free. Okay, now I think that looks pretty good. It's very difficult for you to see. So what I'm going to do is just lay it down while we stick our snowflakes in place. It looks okay. So we've got a little snowflake there. I hope you can see this clearly. And we've got obviously the presents under the tree. Almost there, almost there. Right. So, haha, the dreaded sparkly bits. I'm just going to pick a few dots on the paper to add a few of these too. Got some words out of my stash. It just says happy holidays. So I'm going to kind of just glue that on because I wanted a little sentiment on here. So happy holidays. You can use obviously Word or any kind of text program you have to type out any words. I think that's okay. Do I want one in the middle of the snowflake? So I think I'm going to add a little one to the middle of the snowflakes. We have this. Now we get to kind of fulfill the majority. I know we have a few pieces of that beautiful kit from Rach and Bella on here at the moment, but now we're going to kind of work this out. I'm hoping that I can get these in. I think I might have to use glue. But what I want to do, this was my plan. This is all coming to this. I'm not sure if I'm even going to be able to get all of them in. Now, I do love his tail, but I think we might have to kind of hide it. Actually, you might have to go a little bit higher. Right, I'm just going to have to tip this up now to see if the bells will hang correctly. No. Right, so what I'm going to have to do is tilt this in order to put my bits in. I've got to tilt it. So let me grab my board. So now I'm just going to have to kind of work around the spaces to see what will go where. Okay, so I'm definitely going to have to glue some of these into place. So I'm just going to go ahead and start doing some of that now, because they won't actually stay put. I was hoping the gaps were going to be small enough, but unfortunately they're not. So let's put that in. So I'm just going to kind of glue a little bit on the back of these to get them to stay in place. It doesn't need a lot of glue, just a little bit to make sure they kind of stay peeking out. This is my finished Christmas junk mail, kind of, Christmas tree. I love it. I'd got this idea in my head. I had to kind of go with it. When it's hanging, that's not in the little mouse's face, just so you know. I kind of just had to do it. It was going to be 24 things that slotted into these pockets. I wasn't 100% sure I'd need to glue them in, but unfortunately I did. But that's fine. I think it's quite quirky. I hope you like it. So thank you for watching. First of all, thank you for putting this amazing collaboration together, Rach and Bella. Please go and check out every single channel and every single project. There are some amazing things that are happening, and I want to thank everyone who's come before me and everyone who's after me on the 28th, because the projects were so inspiring and so amazing. I could have used a junk mail envelope, and I pushed myself because every single person in this collaboration has done so and made an amazing project. So thank you to every single one of you. Please go and check out every channel, watch the videos, be inspired to make something amazing this Christmas. Thanks for the wonderful kit, the Digi to work with. Oh, what have we got? Ah, the berries. We've got the berries. Oh, I need to stick them. Somewhere. Let's put them down there. We haven't got anything over there. There we go. Berries are in. Yeah. Junk mail, peekaboo Christmas tree. Give it a go. It's a lot of fun. I would love to see if someone can come up with something that works even better than this, because it's kind of what I had in my head, but not 100%. But I'm really happy with it. I am really happy with it. I hope you have got something out of it, even if it's only a little something. I hope you can, create something from this idea. Take care and see you soon. Bye.